All right, let's pull back the curtain on something that happens behind the scenes on almost every website. The invisible tasks, the hidden to-do list that makes everything just work, even when nobody's around.
I mean, really, have you ever thought about it? You write a post, you schedule it for the middle of the night, you go to bed, and you wake up and bam, it's live. Who's hitting the publish button? Is it magic? An internet elf? Nope, it's automation.
And it's not just about scheduling posts, not by a long shot. Your website is a busy little machine, constantly working in the background. You know, it's checking for updates to keep itself secure, it's running backups, sending out email notifications, even processing subscription payments. These are the unsung heroes that keep a website humming along smoothly.
So, what's the secret sauce behind all this automated magic? Well, let's meet the ghost in the machine, the website's invisible helper. It's something called a cron job.
Okay, so what is a cron job really? The simplest way to think about it is, it's a command you give to a server to do a specific thing at a specific time. It's like setting an alarm clock, but instead of buzzing to wake you up, it tells your website, hey, time to run that backup, or go publish that post now. It's the ultimate to-do list that actually checks itself off.
Now, when you first see what a cron job command looks like, yeah, it can look a little intense, right? A bunch of asterisks, some slashes. It looks like serious developer territory. But stick with me here, because it's actually way simpler than it seems.
Okay, let's break this down. Each one of those 5 stars is just a placeholder for a unit of time. From left to right, you've got the minute, then the hour, the day of the month, and finally, the day of the week. That's it. So by swapping out those stars for numbers, you can get incredibly specific, telling the server to do something like run this command at 2:30 a.m. every single Monday. See? It's not scary code, it's just a super precise calendar.
So, problem solved. Every website uses this perfect scheduling system and we can all go home, right? Well, not so fast. This is where things get interesting, because this is where we run into the WordPress twist. The world's most popular website platform does things in its own unique and kind of flawed way.
And this right here perfectly illustrates the crucial difference. A true server cron job is like an alarm clock. You set it for 3 a.m., and when 3 a.m. hits, it goes off. End of story. But the WordPress version, called WP cron, it's more like an on-demand helper. It knows it has a job to do at 3 a.m., but it can only actually do it if someone happens to visit your website at or after 3 a.m. to kind of poke it and wake it up.
Now, this total dependency on visitors creates a really strange paradox. For the whole system to work, you need people visiting your site. But, and this is the weird part, both too little traffic and, surprisingly, too much traffic can cause this helper to just go silent. Let's start with the one that makes the most sense, the low traffic problem. If you have a post scheduled for 3 a.m., but nobody visits your site until 9 a.m., well, that post isn't going live at 3. The system is just sitting there, waiting for a visitor to give it the green light. No visitors means no trigger, and no trigger means missed, or at least very delayed, tasks.
Okay, now for the counterintuitive one. This is the one that really surprises people. You'd think a site with tons of traffic would be fine, right? Well, not necessarily. A lot of high-traffic sites use something called aggressive caching to make them load super fast. This means they show visitors a saved, static copy of a page. The visitor gets the content in a flash, but their visit never actually hits the core WordPress system. So, just like on a low-traffic site, the trigger never gets pulled, and tasks get missed. And the consequences here can be a really big deal. We're talking about more than just a little inconvenience. A scheduled post that's late can mess up an entire marketing campaign. A missed backup could be catastrophic. Security scans that don't run leave you vulnerable. And for anyone selling online, if subscriptions don't process, you're losing money. This can directly impact your content, your security, and your revenue.
Okay, I know that might sound a little doom and gloom, but don't worry. The good news is that you are absolutely not stuck with this flaky system. There are 2 main paths you can take to get control back and make sure your website's invisible helpers are actually doing their job.
So, path number 1, and this is often the easiest route for non-developers, is to use a specialized plugin. There are tools out there designed specifically to take over and manage this whole process, giving you a much more robust and transparent way to see what's going on, usually without ever having to touch a line of server code.
And these plugins can be a total game changer. As this user points out, they can add some seriously powerful features, running tasks in the background much more efficiently. They basically build a smarter, more reliable to-do list right inside your WordPress dashboard.
But it's always important to see both sides of the coin. Powerful tools can sometimes bring their own headaches. For some people, on some servers, these plugins can feel bloated or even slow things down, like you can see in this very frustrated review. So a plugin might be the answer, but it's not always a simple one-click fix for everyone.
That brings us to the second path, which is hands down the most reliable method. This approach involves completely bypassing WordPress's weird visitor-dependent system and using a real server cron job instead, that trusty alarm clock we talked about earlier.
And the process is basically a two-step. First, you add one single line of code to a WordPress file that tells it, hey, stop waiting for visitors to wake you up. Then, you just pop into your hosting control panel and set up a real cron job to ping a special WordPress link every, say, 5 or 15 minutes. This forces WordPress to check its to-do list on a regular, rock-solid schedule, completely independent of who is or isn't visiting your site.
So we've gone from these mysterious-looking asterisks all the way into the guts of how WordPress works. But let's bring it all back home. Why does any of this actually matter to you, the person who owns the site? Well, for starters, how about pure efficiency? Studies have shown that when you have efficient task management and automation humming along, it can boost productivity by as much as 25%. Think about that. When you can truly trust your website to handle its own maintenance, you free up your time to focus on what really matters: growing your business.
Because ultimately, all these little background tasks, they aren't just minor details. They are the absolute backbone of a professional, stable, and well-managed website. And trusting that backbone to a system that only works sometimes is a pretty big risk to take. So let's just quickly recap the key things to remember. Number 1, WordPress's default scheduler needs visitors to get its work done. Number 2, both very low traffic and surprisingly very high traffic can cause it to fail. 3, this can actually hurt your content, your security, and your sales. And finally, the good news, you can fix it, either with a good plugin or by switching to a real server cron job.
And that leaves us with one final thought to chew on. Every single day, your website is depending on these invisible, automated helpers to function properly. So the question is, do you actually know if they're waking up and getting the job done?